All right, and we're going to go ahead and begin. I wanted to thank everybody for attending our Bridge the Gap webinar series that we are hosting. Today is our first session out of 4 sessions that we're going to be doing with our key presenter here being SharpenCX. Now, before we go ahead and jump into what they have to offer, I wanted to share a little bit about who Matrix Networks is. Matrix Networks, we've been around since the early 80s, 1984, almost 40 years. We've been focused around phone systems, contact center evaluations, and we've evolved into a network first organization as well. Building upon that, our core business applications that we work with our clients is going to be focused around UCaaS, CCaaS, which is Unified Communications and Contact Center as a Service, tied in with network infrastructure, cybersecurity, and also internet optimization to make sure everything runs appropriately. With that being said, one of our key strengths that we have in the marketplace is the ability to do implementation as it relates towards contact center, meeting with executives, and really being able to understand exactly the challenges that you're running into with your memberships, engagement strategies, and also just kind of getting you out of the dark ages and putting you into the way people want to communicate, whether that be through text or email or chat or form fills, etc. With that being said, I wanted to introduce Sharpen CX. We have Adam here on the call with us. Adam, are you there?
I am. I am.
Awesome. Awesome. Adam, I'll go ahead and let you take it from here if you want to do an intro on yourself and
Yeah,
tell us a little
absolutely.
bit about Sharpen.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We love working with Matrix and are proud to be here with Haya as well. My name is Adam Settle. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Sharpen. And Sharpen is an omni-channel CCaaS software, which is just a big mouthful of words. But our main thing is to help you better communicate with your members, regardless of the channel that they're reaching out on. And our passion is to try and do that in a way that elevates the agents themselves. So we'll talk about a lot of technology today, but you'll see that I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about that agent experience, that supervisor experience, and some of the emerging technology that's out there. So we'll dive into that here in just a minute. But even though there's a lot of purple here on the screen, a lot of purple and teal that are Sharpen branded, my goal for this is that you are able to come away from this session with some action items of things that you can do today. And so from an agenda perspective, we'll take a look at what's changing from a member perspective. How do happy agents make happy members? What technology can improve that member experience? And then again, how do you actually just start on that right now? Because we can't boil the ocean, right? You've got to start somewhere. So um, I'd like to just kind of tee this up as think of this like the acoustic session, right? That I'm on a bit of a train rail here to do a presentation, but more than anything, I want to make sure that you come away with this with actionable items. And so if you have questions along the way, please drop them into our Q&A. And if we don't address them throughout the presentation, we'll make sure that we address them at the end. So from a member expectation perspective, I don't think that the things on here will be ultra surprising to anybody that members are just expecting to have us know more details about them in the contact center space, right? Nobody likes going through those ultra rigid decision trees. We're looking for a unique experience. And then a lot of times we've tried to solve our own problems before we reach out to the credit union from a member perspective. And so just some data points behind this to set the stage is that 85% of members expect you to know more details about them, right? Nobody wants to feel like a number. It's one of the wonderful things about a credit union is that personalized relationship. And that needs to extend through the technology. Again, I don't think we're surprised by that, but it's just a data point to show you that those expectations are very real, and they do want that same experience regardless of channel as well. And so I'm sure for a lot of us, phone continues to be the main way that we reach out, but the entire member journey, whether that is interacting with a knowledge base online, the branding of your website, all of that plays into the actual contact center, because the contact center is where you keep the relationship moving from a support perspective. But when you think about your knowledge base, or your self-service IVR, a mobile app if you have it, that is another vehicle to try and get that help. And so members expect that consistent experience regardless of channel or application. Most of us try to solve the issue independently before reaching out. And the biggest thing is nobody wants to repeat themselves, especially in this day and age. The last thing that you want is to go through all of these authentication steps, as an example, and then do it all over again with that member. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more. And Hayo actually dive deeper into that as well. But we just we're just tired of repeating ourselves from a member perspective. And again, I don't think that that's a surprise to anybody. But when we think about the agent side of things, one of the things that we've noticed on the Sharpen side of the house is the agents themselves tend to be put on the back burner when we think about that agent perspective. And so a few data points just to think about here is that 45% of agents say that they don't have the right technology. And that'll be a big basis of what we talk about here going forward of what are the emerging technologies that are coming out here. Coaching and development seems to be the biggest thing that they cite as missing from their roles, not just the technology to support your members, but it's also the ongoing growth and development that agents say that they just don't have. And overwhelmingly, 87% of them say that they are in a high stress level for their current job. And that's a really important one for us to keep in mind as we move through some of these other technology pieces, is already the agents are saying that their job is a high stress job. And so we'll see what kind of impact that has going forward. So what on earth can we do about it to try and help the member engagement? We've got this landscape of member expectations changing and agent expectations changing. And so let's just kind of start with the member side of the house. And that's when we think about the emerging technology, when you think about AI, that term can mean so many different things to different organizations, but predominantly when we think about AI, a lot of us think about chatbot self-service. And so let's just start here from a customer journey perspective. There are a lot of really wonderful emerging tools that are coming out from a chatbot, a generative AI perspective that allow you to have an omni-channel experience. So you can design the flow for what that might look like in your IVR. There are new connection points to provide more self-service or digital banking aspects, so that people can do balance lookups and transfers. And you really want to think about what are the common repetitive questions that your members are answering consistently. And you look at the breakdown of all of your interactions. What are the top two or three? And do those have the propensity to be automated? And there's a lot of really great benefits to doing so. Is now you're taking some of those repetitive questions off the board. And so that can help you from an SLA perspective for KPIs in your contact center. Now you have less people in the queue. You have less reasons for callbacks. It just trickles itself into better SLAs, better KPIs, more efficiency. But you also have consistent 24/7 support because now your members are able to reach out, whether that be chat, social, SMS, email, or voice, and get a consistent experience 24 hours a day. And so that personalization that the members are looking for, remember how many of them said that they wanted you to know more details about them? That personalization becomes easier and easier as you focus on the automation. But even if you don't focus on the automation from a chatbot perspective, you can also streamline the experience from a fraud authentication perspective, even outbound branding, which again is one of the things that Haya is going to talk about later, so that you are providing that relationship connection with that member. So now they're going through and you're doing some automation to analyze whether that is a fraud or spoofed call. And the agent doesn't have to go through all of that all over again. You get more of a surprise and delight, more of a relationship when that member comes into an agent and the agent can immediately begin helping them instead of running through a laundry list of questions. Or certain aspects can then be handled via self-service because of that authentication process. Another area that's really popping out is this knowledge-based curation, again, to give you that consistent messaging and tone. If you don't have a knowledge base yet, that's certainly the first place to start. And so that, the 69% of members that try to solve their problem can find some of those answers and just think of that as an extension of your contact center. But this gives you more consistent tone and voice. You can even get multi-language support if you need to translate any of those articles into other languages. A lot of really great automation occurring on the member side. The flip side of that is the agent side. You want to make sure that you're counterbalancing those tools. If we take all the repetitive, easy questions off of the board, well, our initial gut reaction is to go, well, that's great. My agents are now not handling all these simple, mundane tasks. But remember where we said 87% of agents already say it's a high stress level job? If you take all the easy questions away, it means the only things getting through to the agents are difficult questions. And you can imagine when you have a day where all you do is handle really hard, complex questions, that's also very draining. And so if we don't also think about the agent and supervisor side that we'll go into here in just a minute, streamlining the technology on the member side might cause some of those gaps to occur on the agent side. Now they're handling really difficult questions that they've either not been trained for, they haven't been coached on, or they may not have any additional resources that the chatbot couldn't get to, for example, like your knowledge base. And so there's a lot of new technology emerging that's really centered internally, where you're thinking about what AI and technology can we focus for on our people. And so you're getting things like next best actions for potential responses based off of things like the knowledge base and what the member said or chatted in to provide that information to agents helps with ramp up time, again, helps with that consistency. Even something as simple as summarization. Imagine if your after call work was cut in half because agents didn't have to take the notes anymore, right? They were able to just get a summarization that said the member called in or chatted in about X problem, the resolution was Y. And there you can go certainly much deeper than that, but AI is able to summarize all of these things down and then write back to your system of record. So you start gaining efficiencies all over the place with something just as simple as summarizing what occurred on that interaction. Not to mention, you have things like sentiment analysis, the authentication tools that we spoke about. There's a lot of really great stuff that's happening in the moment on the interaction to make it more not only performant from an efficiency perspective, but more engaging and more personalized to that member and the agent. They have the information that they need at their fingertips to provide that good quality service to the members. From a from a performance management perspective, you also want to think about, especially in a remote world, if a lot of you guys have agents that are working from home, how are they getting feedback? And this is something that we're really excited about is this is almost always one of the top cited issues for agents leaving a contact center. And we all deal with that revolving door of agents just going out from an attrition perspective, but they almost always cite a lack of growth and development. And so to find personalized coaching, to identify blind spots, technology is getting wonderful. Again, this comes back to that summarization, getting fantastic at identifying the overlying trends, outliers, seeing these potential blind spots, and then serving that back to the supervisor or team lead so that they can act upon it. So this isn't to replace supervisors or managers. This is just to help provide awareness because awareness leads to alignment and the alignment leads to performance improvement. And so some of these pieces are just nudges, right? You get coaching feedback, you get nudging, gamification and recognition, really, really good stuff to help you get through the white noise of all of the interactions that are occurring with your members. Um, but a big help is that you then get 100% coverage in identifying those strengths. It can be so hard for supervisors to keep up on all of that information and provide long-term developmental coaching. I've been guilty of that in the past where you do a something like a call calibration with an agent, you sit down, you listen to a call, you identify things to work on, and coaching becomes this thing that occurs in the moment instead of something that occurs over time. And technology helps us really span that gap and make it an ongoing growth and development rather than just spot coaching.
Adam,
And
we
that
do have
really
a
leads us.
question from the
Oh yeah.
audience, if this is a good breaking point.
Oh yeah,
Um,
please throw it out.
Absolutely. Someone wrote down, this looks like incredible technology, but we are a small credit union with only 8 agents at the time. Is this
Yeah.
something that's affordable?
Sure. So that's a really great question. Some of these things can be in pieces and parts. If you want to provide some additional context in the Q&A, we could also talk about, if there's something that you're really excited about, to say we're really focused on quality or we'd want to focus on the chatbot. I guess what I would say to really kind of land the plane here, Ryan, is that what we're talking about, think of it more as the long-term evolution. We don't have to do all of these pieces all at once. And in pieces and parts, they can be very affordable. But some of it just comes from initial triaging to say, like, what is this actually like costing us today in terms of efficiency? You know, you think about ramping up an agent. If you're constantly ramping up new agents, and hopefully you're not, if you have a contact center of 8 agents, a single one leaving could be really hard. But when you think about that ramp up time, when the technology can augment that, that helps you not only keep those agents, but it helps them get up to speed faster. And so it's a very long way of saying that you can break these pieces up. I'm sure Matrix would be happy to chat with you and dive deeper into that. But you don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to gobble up all of this all at once.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the supervisor side of the house. We talked about the agent. The supervisors need a lot of that same information just through a different lens. And I say that because the last time I looked this up a year or two ago, it was 70 to 80% of supervisors slash managers were rock star agents. They were agents that were promoted into being supervisors. And, you know, we all know, but not everybody realizes that the best agents don't always make the best managers, right? And they try to help those people, but they may not even know what coaching looks and feels like. I was actually one of those people. I left work on a Tuesday. I was handed a laptop Wednesday morning when I arrived and said, "Congratulations, you are now managing this team." Now I knew I was doing it, but I got zero training. I just had a laptop instead of a desktop, and I was managing people that were my peers the day before. And so I was just kind of trying to do what my supervisor did, right? I didn't know what went into a good one-on-one session, a call calibration session, why I was looking at metrics. I knew what metrics I should be looking at, but I didn't really know how they applied to intraday management and what tweaks and changes I would make to improve them on the fly. And so it's amazing how much technology can help close that gap and ultimately close the gap for your member experience by closing the supervisor experience. And so things like that member and agent sentiment analysis help them know which interactions to pay attention to. The nudges that you would send to an agent. We just have an example of what Sharpen does over on the side. But again, a lot of great software out there. You're just focused on awareness is what you're looking for. Same thing you would do for awareness for an agent, you know, to say, hey, this call's been transferred 4 times. Do you need help? Right? Do you want to kind of raise your hand and ask? You could also send to a supervisor to say, hey, Adam's on an interaction that's been transferred 4 times. Do you want to listen in? Right. And those things, those little nudges create that awareness so that the supervisor can dive in. You also get the benefit of things like 100% coverage for your QA so that you are able to QA literally every single interaction that occurs rather than just pulling one off of the conveyor belt and spot checking it, which is valuable, but makes it harder to see those trends over time. And so the more coverage that you can get for metrics that matter to you, in this case, QA, the more you can more readily identify those trends and see those pieces. Now, the same thing down at the bottom of the trending assist is you can measure more things like employee happiness, coaching feedback, and those words probably all make sense independently, but when you think about them together, in my experience, it's just a really big blind spot. You know, you think about all the work that we do, or even on this webinar to talk about the member experience because it's so important, right? But you think about the employee experience, and if you think about your current initiatives for members and you swap the word member and agent, you start to get some really interesting thought experiments. You know, we're very focused on things like voice of the member, right? And getting that holistic feedback and trending. And we do it all the time. Or even like things like CSAT scores and NPS. Could you imagine if you test CSAT and NPS, the frequency in which you do your agents? At best, most people do it once a year. Can you imagine if you got CSAT once a year? And so we would want to think through, how do you get that agent sentiment and feedback? Are they getting good coaching that allows them to get better? Are you polling them, maybe not as frequently as you poll your members, since we check that every single interaction, but are you polling them frequently to identify what the friction points for an agent are? Yeah, like we look for friction points for members. And so there's an interesting thought experiment that occurs there that helps you kind of refocus back on the members. And then the supervisor lens is, what are we doing with that skill gap identification, right? We get the awareness up front, but then we do need to act on it. And then ultimately, how are we looking for cost optimization, continuous improvement opportunities? It's really just comes back to the awareness component. And just to piggyback off the question that Ryan just threw out, these things don't have to be expensive, right? The generative AI in general is what's popping up right now, where we're just generating these brand new things. But you can start finding these efficiencies just focusing on the awareness and removing times where agents have to copy and paste, removing friction points from your members where they have to repeat themselves. And that's a fantastic place to start. And then you can think about what technology would help you take it even further. And one of the ways to do that, and we'll talk about this a little bit more here in just a minute in terms of what can we do today, is really start thinking about your data. And so that same summarization idea comes back to all of the data that you have. And we are great at capturing data in contact centers, right? We have data in spades, from interaction data to trending data. And it can be hard to really get down to the bare bones of what are the specific things that are occurring. And this is another place where technology can help you. And so AI is starting to emerge where we're doing things like conversational summarization, right? And so you see a little example over here to say, yesterday traffic spiked at 11:05. And and that's the type of thing, like I usually describe this to people to say, if you left someone else in charge for the day and you came back and you said, hey, what happened yesterday? They would just hit you with the bullet points. They wouldn't give you, a spreadsheet necessarily of everything that occurred, but they'd say things like, yesterday our SLA slipped around 11 a.m. I had to bring a few people in to help out. And AI is starting to get that conversational to say, yesterday traffic spiked at 11 a.m. You may need a few more people, when we get to the same point next Tuesday, or CSAT trending is down lately, or Adam's metrics look a little bit off compared to its 6-week trending average. And it's just to be that nudge to help you see what's going on, but it's a nudge about a big mass of data rather than just a nudge as part of an interaction. So we'll talk about the data here in just a minute, because that's a really key thing as you think about technology that you want to integrate. Is just focusing on quality data. It's going to be the bedrock of all of the technology that we've talked about, and it'll be one of the first things that you want to make sure that you have in order before you go out and try and find technology. So really, really quickly, we'll just talk about one of our credit union customers. Is just a little bit of a success story with Five Star Credit Union, and how technology is helping them. And so Five Star Credit Union has been serving members for over 30 years down in Alabama, and they came to Sharpen really to think about their contact center software in general. But one of the things they were most excited about was what we call performance tiles, and it is just it's a personalized agent dashboard, and it's putting the metrics that matter the most, identified by that administration team at the credit union, right in front of the agents. And so we're picking no more than 3 so that we can keep it small and focused. And they were able to positively start moving the needle on things like first contact resolution. They were getting more efficient with their handle times and their transfers, because the team had actually laid out that these were the most important things, and agents could see how they performed to goal. They could see how they stacked up against their peers. And ultimately it was to drive that better member experience. But it helped the supervisors because they'd already pinned down the 3 most important things to focus on. And so when they went into their one-on-ones, it brought more consistency. It allowed them to coach directly to those metrics rather than, coming up with a new call to listen to, or really just try to guess at maybe skill gaps and identification. They were able to see it and have consistent messaging and ultimately grow a better member experience through that first contact resolution and a better agent experience. And we'll show you, we're going to do a really, really brief demo of Sharpen, just to show you how we go about it, of trying to get the right information in front of the agent at the right time. And so you'll actually see the performance tiles here in just a minute. So this brings us to, where do we start today? We just talked about a lot of stuff. I just went through so many different things that were high level, and we could spend probably the whole hour on each of those slides if we broke out the different personas. And so these are just a few things that I would encourage you to think about, no matter where you are in this journey, is try to start with small scale pilots. If you don't feel up to speed on something like AI, and you hear ChatGPT and Google Bard and you don't really know what that means, I would just encourage you to try it out. And you don't need to do a massive implementation, but you can personally see what those tools look and feel like. And that may help you identify where it might make sense to incorporate in your journey. If you're looking for a small pilot, I would encourage you to try to think about it internally. Some of those generative AI bots just take a lot of training before you would want to put it in front of a member. And it just adds some additional complexity, but think about where you can get efficiency gains internally. And you can do that by looking for the specific pain points and ultimately the most repetitive tasks that you find. And I know this sounds really basic, but most of the time when we go in to talk with contact centers, it almost always has to do with copying and pasting. It's almost always copying and pasting. Agents are taking a phone number from one system, putting it into the core system to find information, and they're just bouncing back and forth between different screens. If you can reduce that and reduce those friction points, you'll see huge efficiency gains right out of the gate. And that's not even, cutting edge technology, but I think you'd be amazed if you sat down with some of those agents to see what are areas where they're copying and pasting, where are they bouncing in and out of different screens where they don't need to be, and just start there. That's the easiest place to start. And as you think about more automation, you want to think about how the training and coaching needs to change so that they are empowered to handle those difficult questions. Because we will get, the self-service, right, where all those easy questions are gone. And that means only the hard things are getting through to agents where they need more autonomy and coaching to make the right decision. And that'll be a lot of process change. They'll have to be not only empowered to do it, but they'll have to have the tools necessary to take advantage of that as well. The biggest thing that I would leave you with is to make sure that you have quality data and to the best of your ability, try to get it into a single place, or at least have those disparate pieces connected, because we see that a lot of data just lives in different places. But even if you get the best AI software that's out there or the best technology, it's kind of a garbage in, garbage out. If you're making decisions on data that's not quality and consistent, the technology is only going to be able to get you so far. And so a thing you can do today is really, really start trying to clean up that data, get it into a single place so that you can access it, take advantage of it to improve your processes. Ryan, do we have any other questions? I know we have a lot of great stuff we're getting into, but I don't want to move on if anything else has popped up.
Not at this time, Adam, but absolutely don't hesitate to pop your questions into the Q&A, folks.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Brian at this point so that he can do a quick demo just to see how some of these pieces fit together.
All righty. Thanks, Adam. There we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. Yeah, I'm going to shoot for maybe a 10 to 15 minute overview of the Sharpen platform. A lot of the points that Adam just made we'll visualize here. So what we're going to start with is just an agent experience. We're going to talk about your member engagement, but through that lens of the agent experience. And this is the queue where your agents will live. And I'm already engaged in a phone call. So this is what it looks like live during an interaction. As Adam said, we're an omni-channel platform. So no matter the interaction type, everything is going to look the exact same to the agent. I want to point out a few different areas of the platform here, and a few different ways in which we can really help you know more and present more about that member that's calling in. So over here on the left in the queue, all the interactions that are coming in, here's the live phone call that I'm on right now. And you can see this purple 20 right here. And this indicates a way that we can present some prioritization about this call, about this caller. And that criteria can be pretty much anything that you need. Maybe it's somebody who has, they're a high value member and you want to give them some priority so that their call goes to the top of the list. It can be anything that you want to use as a way that we can initiate some prioritization. So this is visible to the agent as they're taking this call. And another similar thing is this yellow tag right here in the center. This is just another way that we can help you present something about this interaction, about this member to your agent that they need to know about. In this case, maybe they had indicated they want some information about your credit card program as they're calling in. So this is what the agent can see just as examples of how we can make that available to the agent to help that member experience. Now we're on a phone call right here. We do, just like you would probably expect, transcriptions and recordings and all that. So if we want to give your agents access to transcriptions of prior calls, those are available right here in this window on the left. And so if I'm talking to this member and as the agent, I want to dig into here and sort of read the transcription of the phone call that happened, in this case, a couple of weeks ago, just to help with the interaction, I can read that transcription right here. And all of these functionalities in our platform are kind of toggles by the queue. So it's easy for the agents to help this member by being able to access recordings and transcriptions of past interactions. We can also do some things like surface some content over here on the right with these templates. So think of this as like, links or forms or just material that you want to have your agents have sort of at the click of a button. So as I'm talking to Brian here, and it turns out that, maybe he's new to town and just needs some help with knowing where some of your locations and branches are, we've got a template set up here, and all the agents got to do is click that template. And I just texted this out to this particular caller with a link right here. And kind of the biggest way that we're going to help the agents with that member experience are through integrations and access to other records, platforms, and sources of information. And that's what these tabs represent right here, is where we use APIs to help you integrate to different platforms and material and data that your agents are going to need to help deliver, member experience. So maybe that's things like forms. We can easily surface those forms. So if we're talking to Brian, in this case, about a mortgage, the agent can fill out this information and push it back into the source of record where it came from. Sometimes that's scripts or access to a knowledge base. We can use those as examples of things that we could integrate to. We could present information and objects from your core system in a page that might look like this, or maybe even it's just pieces of data from your core system based on what that call is or what the queue is that this interaction is coming into. And all of these integrations can be bi-directional too. So the idea there is that, we want to look up something about this member, present that information for your agent as we're on that chat or as we're on the phone. But then at the end of the interaction, at the end of the call, we can update this data if we need to, and then push it back into your core system or wherever it came from. And we can even do things a little more complex, like pull up, again, some of that member detail, including things like, is this a verified or not spoofed call? What were the skills that are required in this particular call? So the point here is there's just a lot of different ways that we can help through integrations to other platforms to present for the agents that are taking the calls information about that member so that the agent knows who they are, what they're calling about, and what they need. Now, when I end this call right here, we're going to get to the screen that's going to talk about these tiles right here, like Adam was just talking about a couple of seconds ago. So here's that agent performance dashboard, and this is a way that we use data to help you drive behavior and drive the performance of your agents. And so here are those tiles. They pop up in our platform between every interaction. And so as an agent, when I hang up that call, I'm going to see how I'm performing on these metrics that my contact center management has said they want me to focus on. So here's the current performance level. Here's a goal that's been set, so I can see if I'm meeting that goal or not. And if you want, you can even turn on these stack rankings right here as a way to get, drive a little motivation. So, if I'm in a contact center of 30 and I keep coming up as 27 out of 30, that's going to feel kind of rough, and that's going to drive me to want to perform better on those metrics. And so Adam talked about, these metrics leading to performance enhancements, and those business outcomes in part are driven by agents being able to see exactly how they're performing on the things that you want them to focus on. Now, we do data on the business side through our reporting platform. And one of the ways in which our reporting platform is really going to help you out is because you're going to have access to all of the data in the platform to be able to report on. Certainly, there are sort of default and standard reports, but the main benefit comes from being able to measure and report on and visualize exactly the things that you need. Those are the things that are going to be meaningful for you. So here's an example of just a big board kind of dashboard. The things that I like about this example are, number one, there's obviously a lot of different ways that you can visualize the information based on what that data element is that you're measuring. We can do things like display historical data, like is on the edges right here, and then current information here in the center. So here's what's going on in the contact center right now in the center. So a lot of ways to visualize different pieces of information. And the great thing about the automation and the intelligence that's built into our platform is that these can be dynamic too. So let's just say you have a metric, an SLA for hold time that's 45 seconds. We can make it so that if this hits 45 seconds, that cell could turn red, let's say. Could also, or send an email, send a text message to the supervisor saying, hey, we're at 45 seconds, we need some help. All of that stuff can happen in real time. And we could also do things like send these alerts through, collaboration platforms like Slack or Teams or things like that. So in addition to just being able to show and display a lot of information, the automation within the platform can also in real time alert you of different things that are going on. I wanted to show you right here, just with a single individual report, an example of where all the data comes from. So this, basic agent SLA report that's just looking at, agent by agent, a few different call metrics. Where this report came from is we just selected the data that we want in the report. And where that comes from is this list. So here's everything that's in the contact center. And just like I was saying about the, the customization and the need to measure exactly what you want to measure, we're also able to do derived fields. We've got a formula editor so that if there's something you measure a very specific or custom way, you can write the formula that will create this derived field that you can then pull into a report. And reports can be shared. They can be duplicated real easily. It's a really effective and efficient tool. So this is just a basic example of a report. I've got a couple more to show you. I just opened up an example of an abandons dashboard that actually came from another credit union customer that we've got, where we can talk about the numbers of calls and the percentage of calls that were abandoned, even down to, what time segment of the call were those calls abandoned. So if you feel like, as this customer did, they're losing a lot of calls and they really wanted to dig into where those calls were being abandoned, we could help you with something like that. We can also do something like, looking at some QA, so looking at positive or negative kinds of words or outcomes. Transfers is another sort of element that comes up a lot when we're talking to credit unions like you guys. So all different kinds of ways that we can help you with reports and dashboards to measure in and get real strategic with the kind of information that you're looking for.
Hey,
Right.
Brian, we do have a call or a question, and I think this is pretty relatable to what you're showing right now. It says, we run into problems with people calling in and not knowing who they spoke with last. Is there something that the agents will have visibility into to direct someone back to the loans team or branch managers, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a good one. So who the agent was will be available on any and all reports. So that's one way to slice and dice that. Another way to do that is we can, excuse me, with a little bit of integration to your core system, for instance, also tie an agent to that member record in terms of the last person that member spoke to. So if that's something that's important, we could, as the call's coming in, look into the core system, for instance, identify who that agent was the last time and route to that agent. Good question. Were there any other questions, Ryan, or that one's it so far?
Nope.
So far
That's it.
Okay. The last one I wanted to pull up just as an example has to do with using the data within an interaction to surface for those supervisor and for those coaching purposes. So here's where we're using the transcriptions to look for certain words or certain phrases. And these could be, for coaching purposes, we want to help agents get away from certain words, whether they're positive or negative, or in this case, I don't know. Maybe it's, hey, what business units are the members talking about, or certain programs, maybe credit card sorts of incentives. Are people calling about that? Here's just an example of how we can help surface things specific to what every call is about. And then the coaching piece here, which is a way that we could use a dashboard like this. The coaching piece comes from each one of these interactions that's getting automatically surfaced has this magnifying glass here. And so the magnifying glass, if this is for a coaching purpose, takes us to this contact card where the supervisors can come in here and listen to the recording and then provide some coaching based on the context of actually having listened to the recording. So we're automating, which calls are being surfaced to the supervisor. So that's going to really help with time and efficiency. And then we're also able to help the supervisors provide real contextual coaching back to the agents based on the exact calls that we said we wanted to look at. So those are some of the ways we wanted to talk about how this technology and the Sharpen platform can help you drive your member engagement, again, through the agent lens, but also how you use and harvest the exact data that you need to measure exactly what you want to measure. So thanks a lot for your time, and I think I'm going to turn this back over to Darren.
Awesome. And Brian, it looks like we do have one more question out there. It's saying, how does this work with knowing who is available with the different branches? Typically, our tools are separated from the phone system. Does your platform work with the contact center and the phone system?
Yeah, and Adam might chime in on this one too, but yeah, we'll be able to route into the contact center interactions based on whatever sort of routing strategy and prioritization that you have, whether that's, for a specific branch, for a specific queue, for a specific, line of business within the credit union. So we can define all of that coming into the contact center. If I understood the question correctly, we can also help as a contact center agent picks up an interaction, and maybe it turns out through that conversation that call really just needs to go to somebody, in a different building or outside of the contact center. Those calls can certainly be transferred, whether that's on Sharpen's, business platform or another one as well. Adam, would you add anything else to that?
No, I think you nailed it really well. I guess just to summarize it down is Sharpen can act as the phone system. And when we do, we obviously know who's available. If we connect into your phone system, what we've done in the past is just a directory integration so that agents can see who is available on those backend phone systems, even something like Microsoft Teams, if we need to connect into statuses there.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that information. It was very informative. And with that, I would like to pass it on to Mark for a little bonus session from Haya. Haya is a company that we recently ran into that we've seen some awesome success with in a spot we weren't expecting it, which was branding your outbound caller ID for mobile phones. With that, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over from here if you want to give an intro and give us a little bit about who you folks are.
For sure. Thanks, Darren. So nice to meet you all. My name is Mark Wirt. I am on our strategic sales team. Haya, we are based out of Seattle. We have two focuses to our business, which I'll touch on in one moment, but our primary focus is really to help organizations engage their customers. 79% of unidentified calls go unanswered. Partially because there is just no trust within the voice network. We're all inundated with robocalls of, do you want to extend your car warranty? Do you want to pay your outstanding IRS tax bill with an Apple gift card, and all the other ridiculous scams that are being ran today, which leads to customers just not answering calls, which I'm sure many of you experience. And especially in environments like financial services, when you do put your brand on an outbound call to a credit union member, chances are they'll answer the phone if they're available, right? People want to talk to their financial institution that's trying to contact them. 94% of consumers believe unidentified calls may be fraud. So even if you are not getting a spam or political call tag coming in, just unidentified calls alone is enough to have people not answer the phone. At Haya, there is two parts of our business. I'll be focusing more on the Connect side of our business today, but I do mention them because they work in tandem together. So if you have an AT&T device and you get a call and you see spam, fraud, political call, that is Haya. That's our analytics that are running at AT&T. We have the same relationship with Rogers, British Telecom, Vodafone O2, and several others in which we're rolling out today. So that is our Protect side of the business. The Connect side of the business is a combination of the branded calling that I just described, along with our ability to register calls on your behalf. So if you sign up with Haya, what we'll do is put your numbers through our trust and safety team to register them. Make sure you own the numbers. You have the right to brand as you're requesting. From there, it will go to the networks to register with AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, and then branded calling will be turned on. Because we are integrated at the network level, there's literally zero professional services. All we need to do is take your outbound numbers, upload them, go through our trust and safety process, and which typically takes about 10 to 14 days, and then branded calling is turned on. Because you are vetted from our team and the network providers teams as well, it also gives you a higher level of attestation, which lowers your propensity to be marked as spam in the future, because we know you're calling for legitimate calling practices, and you're calling your customers or prospective customers. So just to kind of give you a visual, when we say branded calling, there's two different ways that it could be displayed. Name only in the US is what we see typically. As you can see, DoorDash is a customer of ours. It pops up as DoorDash when their drivers are making calls to try to find where to drop off a meal, or where somebody's located at if they can't find a driveway, and such. We also have a strong relationship with Samsung, where we are OEM into the Smart Call application. Smart Call is a defaulted application on all Samsung devices. Within the US, if that device is unlocked, we have the ability to provide logo and call reason as well. That feature functionality is more prevalent outside of the US, as within the US, carriers lock their devices if you purchase a device from them. Just to give you an idea of coverage within the US, as I said, we are integrated with every major carrier and subcarrier. So not just AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, but Cricket, Gab Wireless, Xfinity Mobile, and several of the subcarriers that hang off of the major carriers. Once again, this is purely for mobile devices. If you're not too familiar with the space and you're thinking to yourself, how does this differ from caller ID? Caller ID was built for landline. 20 years ago, if somebody called your mother and father's house and was looking for you and it showed up as their name and number, that is pulling from what they call a CNAM database. Couple problems with that. One, there's no centralized updated database. So as phone numbers are recycled many times, you'll see incorrect branding populate. Two, only about 17% of branding from CNAM will show correctly on mobile devices. It was not built out for mobile. It just does not translate well if it goes through historic underlying architecture. That branding is chewed up, spit out incorrectly, or dropped altogether. Just to give you an idea of who some of our customers are, basically anybody who needs to get a hold of their end users. Financial services is big for us, and that's usually in customer service. So callbacks instead of waiting into the queue. Sales, cross-sell, upsell, and financial services is huge for us, and we're leveraged in that capacity with Morgan Stanley, Northwestern Mutual, HSBC, Fidelity, a number of others that aren't listed here as well. Collections is also big for us, and we see some pretty large results in leveraging from a collections capacity. What we'll also see when you put branded calling on outbound attempts is it changes customer intent. So either the customer will answer the phone with the knowledge of who's calling, and they'll be ready to drive a conversation with engagement, or if they're not in a position to have a discussion, they just won't answer. So on top of the branded calling piece, we have back-end analytics, and where we can see how branded calling impacts your customers. And we'll typically see call duration under 15 seconds go way down, call on over 60 seconds go up, and we will see the change in answering attempts in number 1 and 2 versus later on in calling cycles. I know this group is primarily focused in financial services, but we also have a large customer base within insurance. If you think about all the calls that are placed in managing claims, transportation and auto services, and car rentals and deliveries, market research for political fundraising, healthcare with scheduling appointments and follow-ups and test results, prescriptions, that kind of thing, as well as retail home services, what we call last mile delivery, which is the category that DoorDash falls into. Kohl's leverages us for collections. SiriusXM leverages us from a sales perspective. So yeah, we basically have customers in many different verticals. If you do decide to, give us a try and sign up, we do offer 30-day paid pilot periods. So many times when we're looking at organizations that are trying to think about how branded calling will impact their organization, we can pull baseline metrics of what your answer rates and call durations are today and go into a 30-day test period and see in real time what that impact is to your organization from an engagement perspective.
Two-part question here for you, Mark. One's from the audience, one's from myself.
Sure.
Pricing wise, is this on a bundle, or like how does it break down from a pricing perspective?
Pricing is based on outbound call volume. It's not based on per phone number. So it doesn't matter if you have one phone number or 100,000 phone numbers. It's based on your aggregate outbound calling volume. If you have that, great. If not, you can pass us your outbound numbers in which we can run a call assessment against and get a pretty good, accurate ballpark of your volume today on mobile devices.
Great. And with relation to your opportunity to run a complimentary pilot, would you like members of the audience to engage with their Matrix Networks rep, or how should we proceed in order to sign up for something like that?
Absolutely. So it is a paid pilot. It's not a free pilot because there are hard costs that are involved. But you can engage with your Matrix rep and he'll get you in touch with Harry, who runs our channels partnerships team for this segment, and he will route you to the proper rep.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I think we are just about out of time, but just to show you quickly what our backend console looks like. If you are a customer of ours, you'll be able to see what your overall, for the up to the past 90 days, what your overall unique answer rate is, answer rate per attempts, overall answer rate, call duration. We also have a relationship with Samsung where we pull all the data back. And we also have the ability to brand through the device, not through the carrier. But what that essentially means is we get reputation data. So you can see if you have a spam issue on a particular overall perspective or as well as on a particular number. So if I scroll down here, you can see all of your numbers that are registered. And if there is a problematic number, instead of just waiting for the customer to say, hey, I answered this phone, but it came up as spam, you can actually get in front of the problem and be proactive instead of reactive. There also is a call feedback loop in here as well, where there's different methodologies. When somebody reports a number, it allows them to type in why they're reporting a number, and gives you a pulse on the health of the number and your calling strategies. Are you just calling too much? Is somebody spoofing your number? And some other insights that you can gain here. We also have a tool at our disposal where we can run your current outbound numbers and see how they're displaying today on every network. This is an internal tool that we've built. So, we can plug in a phone number or a list of phone numbers, and we can see how that displays across Verizon, T-Mobile at all different subscription levels, AT&T. What also shows here is many times there's just ununiform branding across the board. In this particular example, you can see a couple different brandings coming through from CNAM, but they're all drastically different, and we don't know which one's correct, right? Everything from COVID vax updates to UAMS to healthcare information to many of them having zero branding at all. And we're happy to run this for you as part of our engagement to show you how your numbers are displaying today. With that, back to you, Darren.
Wanted to say thank you to everybody that is attending today's webinar series. We will continue this again in November. October, we are hosting our 11th annual technology mixer, where we're bringing together some of our best partners in the marketplace to just showcase what they've got going on, along with some key talk tracks. If you're interested in attending that, please reach out to your Matrix rep that connected you to this event today. Love to see if we can get you folks out there for that. At the same time, be on the lookout for our next event as well too. We appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you all soon.